Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, testifying again before a New York grand jury investigating hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Here he is on his way out of the courthouse tonight.
This isn't a question of vindication. It's not a question, as I stated before, about revenge. My position is that at the end of the day, Donald Trump needs to be held accountable for his dirty deeds if, in fact, that's the way that the facts play out.
Daniels also today meeting with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Trump has been invited to appear before the grand jury, which is the clearest indication yet that prosecutors are nearing a decision on whether to take the unprecedented step of indicting a former president. Out front now, Trump's attorney, Joe Tacopina. And Joe, I very much appreciate your time. So you just heard Michael Cohen coming out today, just moments ago. What's your response to him?
I mean, look, Alan Bragg once said, and I hope he remembers these words, he can't see a world in which he would base a prosecution of Donald Trump on the word of a convicted perjurer and felon like Michael Cohen. He's still a convicted perjurer. He's someone who was convicted of lying. And it's not about vengeance. It's all about vengeance for him. But putting that aside, Erin, here's the question. Does anyone actually believe, anyone, left, right, middle, whatever, that if someone else were accused of paying hush money to avoid a public sex scandal in the manner that Donald Trump is alleged to have avoided a public sex scandal, they would be prosecuted? The answer is 100% no. And we cannot, as a society, again, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, left, right, want the weaponization of the justice system or a prosecutor's office to pursue political opponents with rule of law. And it's just not right, and that's exactly what's happening here.
I want to ask you about that, but first on the point you said about Michael Cohen, convicted perjurer. Okay, yes, and he served his time. But the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, obviously is not going to indict based on what Michael Cohen says. If they were going to do that, they would have done that a long time ago. They corroborated it. They got their information. We know actually in front of the grand jury, they heard from other witnesses. Kellyanne Conway appeared there. Hope Hicks appeared there. Does any of that give you pause?
Yeah, I mean, well, it gives me confidence. It should give Alan Bragg pause. The federal prosecutor's office, Southern District of New York, is the top, the echelon, the holy grail, if you will, of prosecutors' offices in this country. They had plenty of time to indict former President Trump if they wanted to. They chose not to because they understand that campaign election law makes it very clear that there was no violation here. And Erin, if there is no campaign law violation here, there is no case at all,
Well, I understand. Someone who was involved in that the other day told me that, time had passed when that decision was made not to indict. They thought, well, you know what? They could have had more information. They could have figured it out. They're not going to move without having that. That's another way to look at this, right? That they got the goods.
Well, that they got the goods, they evaluated it, and they didn't go forward. The Manhattan DA's office, despite what they said about relying on Michael Cohen in the past, for 3 years, they have scoured Donald Trump's personal and business life, scoured. And they've looked for a crime to fit the person. And again, I will say this is not, we should all be concerned about this. Whether you like or hate Donald Trump, we should all be concerned that they pick the person and are searching for the crime. If you read Mark Pomerantz's book, a guy who committed all sorts of ethical and, in my opinion, criminal violations by revealing secret grand jury information to a third party, his book, even he said that they picked Trump. He would have paid to prosecute Trump, which is a scary statement by a public prosecutor, but he would have paid to prosecute Trump. And they were looking for a crime to fit this person because he didn't like him.
Well, okay. Look,
there's
two questions there. One, if a crime is there, misdemeanor or felony, campaign fine, if a crime is there, right? You would agree, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, to your second point, on the politicization, I know last night, Joe, you said Donald Trump is going to win the election. If they bring this case, I believe it will catapult him into the White House. I believe it. That's what you said last night. But if that's the case, they surely would know that too. Why would they be going ahead and doing this for political reasons if it's only going to help him?
Listen, Erin, they may not see it the way I see it. They may think that if they indict someone, that it makes them ineligible to run for president. I mean, there's some states that I think you actually can be disqualified from being on a ballot if you have an open indictment. Look, I think it will embolden his supporters. Okay, I think it will enrage his supporters, make them feel stronger about the fact that they're politicizing the justice system. But I think a prosecutor would say, he's a very democratic prosecutor. That's been supported by the far left, going after perhaps the most far right guy you have out there. And I think he's thinking, if I prosecute him, I take him out of candidacy. And again, that is not what a prosecutor's office should be doing.
Well,
Justice
and of course,
has
an
to be
indictment
blind.
would not mean he couldn't run. Now, if he's charged, Joe, is he prepared? The former president, Trump, is he prepared to appear in court and defend himself?
Okay. So one thing I'll tell you about Donald Trump in my time that knowing him and representing him and having the honor to represent him is he's probably the toughest guy I've ever met, because most people would buckle under this pressure. Is he prepared? He's prepared. I'm prepared. Susan Nicholas is prepared. My co-counsel is actually running lead on this thing. We're all prepared because this case will be eaten up. It fails on the law and it fails on the facts. So yeah, he's prepared. Does he want this to happen? Of course not. Does anyone want to be charged falsely with a crime because of political persecution? Of course not. But again, it's the facts in the law that all we have to look at is the facts of the law. And the law is very clear. Campaign finance law is very clear. You have scholars and former chairman of the federal and state campaign finance law committees who have all opined. Show me one who says differently that these facts make out a crime. They do not.
Well, the only thing I'd say is if it's going to embolden his supporters and help him, why wouldn't you just want him to go ahead and charge? If you think there's no merit and it emboldens his supporters, sort of sounds like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Well, no, it doesn't. That's not at all. I'm saying I believe that will be the end result of this. Don't say I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, because I'm not. I'm not saying it's a great thing if he gets indicted. I said if they indict him, it will embolden him. I think it will, because he will win this case, it will catapult him to the White House. That's what I said. What I'm also saying is that no one in their right mind wants to be indicted and charged falsely with a crime. So I don't think that's talking out of both sides of my mouth. I'm just stating facts. I think it will ultimately embolden his supporters, and give him more strength, because it will be proven to be wrongly accused. But on the other hand, who in their right mind wants to be indicted and charged falsely with a crime? Nobody.
All right, Joe Tacopina, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, Erin. Bye-bye.